No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken, episode number 327. And breaking right now, the incitement to violence and dark politics that led to the assassination of Charlie Kirk has now been imported to the UK by slippery Starmer's Labour Party, with Mad Ed Miliband launching egregious attacks on both Nigel Farage and Elon Musk from the podium today.
He's now a key part of a global network that wants to destroy the ties that bind our communities. We have a message for Elon Musk. Get the hell out of our politics and our country!
The latest tirade comes as Reform UK reveals Farage's security has been stripped by the deep state, as Zia Yusuf claims Starmer, David Lammy, Shabana Mahmood and Labour's other hate spreaders will be directly responsible for any violence inflicted on the man winning in the polls to become the next PM.
Designed to incite violence against Nigel. The authorities slashed the size of Nigel's security detail by 75%.
If anything was to happen to Nigel, we will hold Keir Starmer squarely responsible.
Meanwhile, the outrage grows over Lammy's Hitler Youth lie and Starmer's latest nutty suggestion that the invasion of the Channel is because of Farage boats.
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
These are Farage boats in many senses that are coming across the Channel.
So in my digest next, how Labour has changed British politics permanently by importing US-style political violence, and the consequence will be blood on their hands. Then my superstar panel weigh in. Father Calvin Robinson is here today, and we will be joined later by Reform UK's Pink Ladies, Orla Minnie-Hain and Sarah White. Also coming up on the show today, Shabana Mahmood is not English, as a new racism row breaks out between Suella Braverman and Lewis Goodall over the realities of ethnicity. And the pink protest started in Essex, storms Downing Street, but Narinder Kaur is there to crash the party. And the off-communists forced Russell Quirk off air from Talk TV and what he is claiming as two-tier broadcasting because of his Essex mayoral bid for Reform UK. We'll reveal why he's fighting back. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, really worrying this, Thomas Markle, we broke the news live yesterday, remains trapped on the 19th floor of a high-rise building full of cracks after this deadly earthquake in the Philippines, with over 60 dead. And Meghan Markle, she is refusing to help. So we're going to cross to the stricken city as the fake Duchess's brother Thomas Markle Jr. unleashes a host of extraordinary tirades against the woman he describes as the Witch of Montecito. That is over on Substack, www.outspoken.live after the main show. And of course, before we go today, we will be revealing a new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. The worst Britain in the world today, that's our Union Jackass. The vote is down to you. You can contribute. You can get voting right now in the YouTube live chat. Here are your nominees. Diane Abbott, nominated by Kaz Quinn, the mother of the house, for saying on Newsnight she is all for people giving Nigel Farage a good kicking. David Lammy, nominated by Blame Game, who says Farage was born 19 years after the Hitler Youth was disbanded. Is Lammy so thick he believes his own statement, or is this something more sinister? And Ed Miliband, nominated by Error Stirs 69 for being Ed Millie Brain, part of the worst government ever fact. So 3 Labour big guns for you to choose between today. Get voting. Let me know your comments. I'll read out some at the end of the show. So do stick with us today. But now, let's go. Something very dark and very chilling has happened in British politics in the past 48 hours. Slippery Starmer and Labour, knowing they have nothing else left given historically low polling and a mutinous party, are importing political violence and the language of political violence to the UK. Less than a month after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, they're following the exact playbook of the Antifa-inspired American radical left, right down to false claims of Hitler Youth racism and Nazis.
He doesn't like Britain.
doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does. Because whilst we must come together to fight reform with everything that this movement has, we must go into that battle armed. If you say they should now be deported, then mark my words, we will fight you with everything we have, because you are the enemy.
Yes or no, is Nigel Farage a racist?
I answered your question. I'm not going to play the man. I'm playing the ball as our leader did. I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
So let me just be very clear about what's going on. Someone needs to say it. If they can't take out Nigel Farage politically, they hope to inspire a nutter to do so by nefarious and violent means. And if you don't think there's a deep state plot against the Reform UK leader, then what the hell explains officials deciding, just weeks before this onslaught, to cut his security by 75%?
Is clearly designed to incite violence against Nigel. And I also want to share this morning some new information. And I thought long and hard about whether I should share it. I lost some sleep last night thinking about it. But I think it is in the public interest that they know that just about 2 weeks ago, the authorities slashed the size of Nigel's security detail by 75%. The authorities cut Nigel's security detail by 75%. 2 weeks ago. That's why so many of us around Nigel are so worried. Now, I want to be clear and reassure people who, A, support Nigel, but B, all right-thinking people in this country who believe in sensible democratic politics in this country, that thankfully donors stepped in and have shored up that security, so Nigel is well protected. But the Prime Minister knows exactly what he's doing. This is a Prime Minister who's circling the drain, who, according to a poll this week, is the most unpopular Prime Minister on record. According to a poll this week, the majority of Labour members want to be replaced, and he's lashing out against a man that he knows. Starmer knows he cannot beat Nigel at the ballot box, so he's embarked on the most, I want to say it again, extraordinary, coordinated attacks to incite violence against the man who is the bookmaker's favourite to replace him at number 10 Downing Street. It's disgusting, and he should apologise.
Because given the stakes, I'm not going to mince my words. I will say this, and there are millions of people, no doubt, around the country who support Nigel, who agree with this. And frankly, many who don't support Nigel who would agree with this. If anything was to happen to Nigel, we will hold Keir Starmer squarely responsible.
Now, look, I have massive issues with Zia Yusuf, and I understand the fury of Tommy Robinson supporters who say the Reform UK lies about him have also put his security at threat. So let me just say that from the outset. But Yusuf is right when it comes to this situation with Farage. He explained Keir Starmer knows he cannot beat Nigel Farage at the ballot box, so is using the mighty megaphone of government to incite violence against him. I don't know how he sleeps at night. The Prime Minister and his cabinet are engaging in stochastic terrorism. Starmer and his goons know what they're doing. Now, stochastic terrorism describes how mass-mediated hostile public rhetoric can incite random, statistically predictable but individually unpredictable acts of violence against a targeted individual or group. The term was coined by a blogger in 2011 and involves demonetization and dehumanization through repeated hostile statements, often on social media to provoke violence. While the exact perpetrator remains unpredictable, the likelihood of an attack is statistically increased by the ongoing negative narrative. And let's be honest, that type of terrorism worked when it came to Charlie Kirk. Our friend Connor Tomlinson explained it well, writing, "They call you a racist, a Nazi, or a fascist to put a target on your back. When they call you Hitler, they are telling the lunatics in their base, whoever kills this person would be a hero, just like the soldiers who fought fascism in World War II. Charlie Kirk's murder shows this rhetoric incites violence. Not that David Lammy knows that. He's never had a conscious thought in his life. He's just stringing talking points together into an incoherent sentence and putting Nigel Farage's life at risk in the process. But if there was any thought that after yesterday Labour was going to tone down its rhetoric, this morning's conference speech from a truly deranged, Mad Ed Miliband, launching egregious attacks on both Farage and Elon Musk from the podium, proves otherwise.
The threat from reform goes way beyond their climate-denying agenda. You see, the truth is, I wish Nigel Farage was just the snake oil Tory city boy we've known about for years. He's actually morphed into something even more dangerous. He's now a key part of a global network that wants to destroy the ties that bind our communities and our way of life. And I can sum up the threat for you in 2 words. Elon Musk. Elon Musk. He incites violence on our streets. He calls for the overthrow of our elected government. He's an enabler of disinformation through X. He thinks he can tell us how to run Britain. Conference. We have a message for Elon Musk. Get the hell out of our politics and our country.
A weirdo, a freak, a hypocrite, but this is very much a strategy. And one of the country's top barristers, Stephen Barrett, believes it is illegal. He writes, Ed Miliband demonising both Nigel Farage and Elon Musk. This is legitimising political violence and a disgrace to Britain. After the Prime Minister, other ministers, and particularly David Lammy's disgraceful remarks, othering their political opponents, I am calling on Merseyside police to investigate. I think that they are inciting violence. We have investigated tweets less sinister. Lammy needs to resign ASAP. Now watch him explain why.
Well, I think David Lammy must resign immediately. And then I would call upon Merseyside police to carry out an investigation into the Labour Party for that there are a large number of offences, and I don't want to get bogged down in technicalities, that the public broadly know as incitement to violence. And I think we've seen them at the Labour Party conference. I think that's disgraceful. I have friends in the Labour Party. I have friends on the left. I hope that they are utterly shocked and disgraced. If the Conservative Party does the same thing, I'll be back on to tell you how disgraceful the Conservative Party is. But it's about time that we put down a line in the sand to protect the country that we actually want to be. And I think most of us, regardless of our politics, actually want to be us. You know, Britain. We are a thing. We, famously portrayed by Tolkien as the Shire full of hobbits. That's what we are. We want our beautiful, lovely country back. And we're not going to get it.
But there is a dual purpose to the ongoing attacks on Farage, as Wall Street Mav pointed out. They're setting the scene to justify jailing him. Now, thus far, I think Nigel's response has been calm and measured, even though he described Lammy's attack as vile to me yesterday, and has even received support live on air from Labour peers.
To constantly call us racist, he even dared at one point to start suggesting there was prejudice on the basis of skin colour, something for which there is absolutely not a single shred of evidence. And here's my worry, Bev. I'm big enough and ugly enough and have security and all the rest of it to look after myself. But if you incite in this way by calling people racist, surely that has shades of what happened to my late friend Charlie Kirk, who they constantly called racist and Nazi, bigoted, transphobic, all of those words. And I genuinely am fearful. I'm fearful for our elected officers around the country. I'm fearful for our campaigners. I think, frankly, what Starmer has done is despicable, beneath contempt. I do think on this, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet have sunk into the gutter. And I think what they've done is insightful and dangerous. And I say that especially in the wake of the murder of my friend Charlie Kirk just 3 weeks ago. He was called lots of nasty names. And we've already had a situation of violent attacks on reform supporters, and I really worry this will embolden the radical left. It will embolden those who wear face masks and are quite prepared to use violence. And I think, frankly, what the Prime Minister has done is a total disgrace. I hope he wakes up tomorrow and he's ashamed of himself. That is my opinion. I believe it very strongly. Good evening. You were quite happy with what the Home Secretary had to say.
Oh, very. But first of all, before we go any further, I'm very proud to be Labour, and I'm very ashamed about the accusation of calling you a racist. I am going around this conference and I'll be writing articles absolutely disputing that. I know, Nigel, that you are not a racist. I know that you spend a huge amount of your time expelling racists from reform. So please accept my personal apology, not from the party but from me, and I'm honoured to be on GB News. I'm honoured, actually, to think of you as a friend. So that's a disgrace to me as well.
Thank you, Morris, for that. Now, we don't agree on everything, but thank you for that very much indeed.
And it's looking like David Lammy's non-apology apology. It's looking like it may not be enough to save him from a lawsuit after he used long discredited theories to suggest that Nigel Farage, there he is, this teenager in Dulwich, was a Nazi. As Concerned Citizen posted yesterday, David Lammy says, I'm not commenting on whether I called Nigel Farage racist. That was a long time ago. I'm focusing on his policies. Today, David Lammy, Nigel Farage was part of the Hitler Youth movement. Now, I have to be honest, the apology, and I'm really going to say apology like that because it was a non-apology, from Lammy on the British Bashing Corporation was pitiful.
They also suggested that Nigel Farage had flirted with Hitler Youth. Now, the party have said that's totally untrue, that that's libelous, contemptuous. What did you mean by that?
I think there were some articles circling around from a teacher, but I wasn't at school with Nigel Farage. I don't know what songs he sang at school, so I'm happy.
You have no evidence for that suggestion.
I'm happy to clarify. I did say it's for the public to make up their mind, and I did also emphasise that let us play the ball, not the man. So it's not my intention to play the man, Nigel Farage. In fact, I did a show with Nigel Farage on LBC a few years ago. Let us concentrate on the ball, the policy, which is the deportation policy, his policies on the NHS, which I think is to charge, and his policies on lowering tax cuts, which would lead to the bond market, not the man.
To be totally clear, you're pulling back from that comment that you made.
He has denied it. And so I accept that he has denied it, and I would like to clarify that position because in the end, the Prime Minister was keen for us to focus on the policies, not the individual.
Let's talk.
Well, that's not good enough, Lammy. You've called him a Nazi. Joe Rich surmised Labour's Deputy Prime Minister is going to have to prove this or endure a very expensive and humiliating climb down. McSweeney and Starmer are furious because this is now the headline from party conference and it's absolutely ridiculous. And Will Kingston added, I am generally against politicians suing other politicians for defamation. In this case, I'm willing to make an exception. Farage should take Lammy to the cleaners. And of course, there's always a tweet, isn't there? There's always a tweet exposing the hypocrisy of these goons. And in the past, Lammy claimed to care a lot about discourse in politics, writing, no surprise the conspiracy theorist thugs who harassed Keir Starmer and I repeated slurs we heard from Boris Johnson last week at the dispatch box. Intimidation, harassment and lies have no place in our democracy and they won't ever stop me doing my job. Now, it's really difficult, isn't it, to actually know how to look at David Lammy. Like, do we just treat this guy as the embarrassment and the clown that he is, or do we actually understand that it's really dangerous? Well, I think Douglas Murray summed up well why sometimes we should take the former approach.
Expanded. What is he on about there? And what about this turning down the temperature and not having this rhetoric that could lead to violence? Have we forgotten that already?
Oh, of course they've forgotten it. That stuff never lasts more than a few minutes, if not a few hours. You could see on David Lammy's face there as he said it, he was trying to work out whether he should go there. His eyes flickered for a moment as he was trying to work out whether this was the one to wheel out. David Lammy, as I've never stopped enjoying reminding people, appeared on Celebrity Mastermind some years ago and asked in the general knowledge round which king succeeded Henry VIII, answered Henry VII. Now, that being said, it's perfectly possible that in David Lammy's mind, Nigel Farage, as a boy, travelled back in time to flirt with joining the Hitler Youth. And so we must allow David Lammy these brain farts. But, I mean, yes, again, it's just woeful, isn't it, Rita? It's just woeful. We have prime ministers, deputy prime ministers of just such a low caliber. And they really do think that if they call mainstream politicians who they're trying to beat at the ballot box and in the polls, if they call them Hitler, flirting with Hitler Youth, fascist, Nazi, everything else, populist, if they do all of that, then they can win the argument. It's absolutely woeful. And they would hate that if it was done to them. And I suppose at some point, people with fewer morals, or indeed the same morals as them in these matters, as little adherence to truth, might well play that round at them. And wow, how they'll scream then, you know?
But there was no contrition from Slippery Starmer, even when he appeared on Farage's employer, GB News, this morning.
With that, OK, Nigel Farage has accused you of inciting violence against reform, putting a target on the backs of people backing reform, with a reform rosette. Are you risking inflaming tensions, particularly after the murder of Charlie Kirk?
No, not at all. There is a political fight that has to be had, and it's about the future of our country, because at the next election, the fight will be different to the fight at every other election. It won't be Labour versus the Conservatives. It'll be Labour versus Reform, and that means patriotic national renewal with Labour, where we go forward as the whole of our country, versus the toxic division and decline of Reform, which I think will tear our country apart. I, as Prime Minister, want to serve the whole of my country, my beautiful, tolerant, diverse country that I believe in.
And indeed, his obsession with Farage actually saw Starmer use that interview to launch a bizarre new attack on the Reform UK leader, suggesting the invasion of the channel is because of what he described as Farage boats.
Point out to Nigel Farage and others that before we left the EU, we had a returns agreement with every country in the EU, and he told the country make no difference if we left. Well, he was wrong about that. These are Farage boats in many senses that are coming across the channel.
And legal net migration, that will come down to under your government.
Yes, if you look at, well, we got the Boris wave, didn't we? Yeah. Immigration went up fourfold under the Conservatives in 5 short years. It's unbelievable. And we are bringing it down. You've seen those numbers coming down. Of course, it's right to say that many people come here to contribute to our society, but the numbers need to come down, and we're bringing them down.
I mean, the guy's just, you know, ludicrous. It's absolute bullshit. And I love this from UKIP, by the way. Nick Tanconi and UKIP proving that actually, with a bit of tough action, the boats could, of course, be stopped.
Shall not pass! You 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 shall not pass!
But back to the Labour campaign, suspended MP Diane Abbott, the first to cry victim at the smallest hint of criticism, despite being a nasty racist herself, continued the BBC onslaught against reform on Newsnight, again with no pushback from the state broadcaster.
He's only got 5 MPs, and the danger is, I'm all for people giving him a good kicking, where Streeting did that this morning, but the danger is if you give him too much free publicity, you turn him into a bigger figure than he is. The thing about reform is I'm old enough to remember the SDP. At one point, the SDP had massive polls. All the mainstream papers supported them. They had all the stars of the era, and their polling lead collapsed. And you've got to remember, this is Nigel Farage's third party, and I think people shouldn't be too frightened of his polling lead because he can be beaten.
That prompted Farage ally Andy Wigmore to respond, actually copying in the Met Police, writing, "What the fuck, this is as good as inciting violence against Nigel Farage." Yusuf added, if someone said this about a Labour MP, the media would go into meltdown. The appalling BBC didn't even challenge it and now tweeted out for more airtime. Absolutely disgusting. Now, what is clear to me today is that there is genuine fear within Reform UK that they are now having targets put on their back as a result of these dark new attacks. Lee Anderson wrote, they've spent the past 3 days calling a third of the electorate racist, and to top it off, they wheel out this idiot to make outrageous claims it's politics of the gutter. Then when Labour ministers Mike Tapp and Torsten Bell labelled Farage a snowflake, adding he doesn't like to be held to account for his racist policies, it's his divisive rhetoric and his grifter politics, well, bad luck, because there's a lot more to come. Richard Tice replied, do you condemn violence? If so, why are you inciting it? And this was very interesting to me. Charlie Kirk's UK arm of Turning Point even weighed in. And these words should matter given what just happened. Writing, Labour openly ally with violent left-wing thugs. Is anyone surprised they use terminology that incites violence against their political opponents? Shame on you. Party chairman, Reform's chairman David Bull, and the party's Lincolnshire Mayor Andrea Jenkins have both admitted that they no longer feel safe.
As far as I'm aware, Nigel wouldn't have been old enough to be in the Hitler Youth, so I think David Lammy probably needs a history lesson. But again, here we go again. This is the point, which is actually this is guttural politics. And whilst he thinks it's very clever, actually, what this is doing is sowing division and it's sowing societal fracturing. And I think they need to be very careful about what they are doing because they are alienating huge chunks of this country. People who are passionate, hard-working Brits who want to make this country great again, who want to see a control on the migration crisis. Remember, stop the boats, smash the gangs, all this nonsense. Nothing's happened. 38,000 so far this year, 50,000 since Labour took power. This Labour Party has no policies, no substance and no idea, and it needs to leave office.
They are purposely trying to put the fear of God into the public because they know they are losing votes. And, you know, how dare they? I mean, like, Starmer's saying that Nigel doesn't believe in Britain. What? And its future? What, while Labour are there wrecking it? But how dare, like, globalist Starmer, a WEF puppet, say that about Nigel? Look how I was in Parliament when he tried to stop Brexit, colluding to stop Brexit. You know, he's a globalist. If anybody believes in Britain, it's reform and it's Nigel. And like you said, these abhorrent things about Hitler Youth and as being as a far right movement. This will cause more division on the street. As you said, Charlie Kirk, what happened in America?
As Stephen Barrett put it, if Dame Andrea does not feel safe, then this needs addressing. I refuse to wait until another British politician of any party is hurt. Lammy must go. Merseyside police must act. But of course, I acknowledge that there are two schools of thought here. Rupert Lowe, former Reform UK MP, took a different tack. He wrote, get called a racist, xenophobe, Islamophobe, far right. Who cares? Honestly, it doesn't matter. Trust me. They are now just meaningless words. Don't moan, don't bite, don't care. Don't give those words and those who use them so flippantly power over you. This is the way. And interestingly, Elon Musk, and I don't know if he'd seen Ed Miliband's attack on him yet, agreed, adding exactly those attacks are so overused as to make them meaningless. Meanwhile, Jacob Rees-Mogg, I like this actually. He took the Charlie Kirk approach by actually deciding to face down his so-called enemies at the Labour conference.
I think Nigel Farage is a fundamentally good thing for British politics because...
Would you agree that he's racist?
No, I wouldn't. I think that's nonsense.
Because?
Because being worried about immigration is not racist.
No, it's not just a worry about immigration, is it? It's about some of the things that he said about migrants in particular and about small boat people, which is clearly demonising. And that's one of the tropes of racism.
Perfectly
you
reasonable
demonise human beings.
to criticise people who come to this country illegally and try to claim asylum. And
Nobody is illegal.
Well, they're coming on boats illegally, and actually it was illegal until Labour changed the law and made it legal again.
No person is illegal in and of themselves.
We had made it illegal for people to come on small boats.
You made that decision?
Yeah, I backed that strongly, yes. People who've got to France have absolutely no right to come onto the UK. France is a safe place, they can stay there.
What do you think people do?
Why do they come here?
Yes.
Because we're a great country. I mean, it's a compliment to us. But we can't take all these people. We've taken far too many people in too short a space of time.
When you say we can't take these
we haven't
people,
got the housing for them. We haven't got the roads for them.
Because you haven't built it.
Well, the Labour Party is doing no better at building housing.
But perhaps it was best left to Tommy Robinson, who responded to this post by Keir Starmer, where he claimed, "We will renew this country until we can say with total conviction that Britain is built for all," by writing, "Britain is not for all and not yours to give away. Call a general election, you and your cronies are finished." Now, the Superstar panel. Brilliant to have Father Calvin Robinson with us alongside Sarah White, who has, of course, been leading the pink protest at Westminster today, which we will be talking about very shortly. But Father Calvin, you also responded to this Keir Starmer claim, writing, "For all, no thank you. There is nothing racist or xenophobic about protecting one's borders. Do not let these wicked globalists bully you into thinking otherwise. Britain is for the British." I assume you weren't impressed by his speech.
I was not. And people can debate what it means to be British, but the fact of the matter is that Britain is for the British. This idea that it's for all, open to all, is clearly globalist propaganda. If it's for all, then there are no borders. If there are no borders, there is no country. Then what is the point of Britain? What's the point of any country? I don't like that. I didn't vote for anyone that represents that. I don't think anyone did. And so if he wants to remove our borders, if he wants to say that we are no longer a nation of people, that we are just for all, then he needs to put it to the vote. He needs to put it to the people. He needs to have a referendum and or an election. But of course he won't do that. And we know he's petrified because the sharks are circling the water. What I did find interesting about his speech, and pretty much most of the Labour Party conference this week, has been that it's been entirely about Nigel Farage. They clearly see him as a massive threat. They've all become paper or plastic patriots waving flags around that just a week ago they told us were racist and xenophobic. That's how afraid they are. But interestingly, have we heard them mention Kemi Badenoch or His Majesty's opposition once? I haven't.
No, because they are irrelevant. At least for the moment, which is interesting. I mean, I did find the flag wavers hilarious, Father Calvin. I mean, they looked utterly miserable there with their St. George's cross. Sarah White, look, as a Reform UK supporter, how concerned are you about this threat of violence? I mean, you know, Nigel Farage is deeply worried about this. Zia Yusuf is deeply worried about this. I mean, he has effectively said today, if there is an attack on Nigel Farage now, Starmer has blood on his hands.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? He's directly inciting violence towards another person. And like you said, we've seen what happened with Charlie Kirk. These far left, like lunatics that are all suffering with a mental illness, they want to cause harm. And, you know, are any of us safe just because we merely speak out and have a difference of opinion to these lunatics? And it is worrying, because how can the Prime Minister say something like that and get away with it? And shouldn't he be held accountable?
Well, honestly, Father Calvin, I do believe they want to take Nigel Farage out. I really do. I really do, because they're not going to take him out at the ballot box as it stands. Certainly Labour will not. And how else do you explain, Father Calvin, the fact that literally, just as Charlie Kirk is assassinated in the US, at that exact moment, the British deep state decide to strip Nigel Farage of 75% of his security?
That's awful. How bad does that look? They're pretty much saying, have at it, go for him. That's how afraid of him they are. It's shameful, actually. They should be upping his security, and that they should be learning from the lessons that have happened in America, in that if you keep calling people racist, fascist, Nazi, all these horrible words, you keep calling people these, eventually someone will take it into their own hands and end the person, because they don't want to see another Hitler, right? And this is what the Labour Party hasn't learned from, or maybe they have, maybe this is all on purpose. But to see Ed Miliband I mean, firstly, it's embarrassing to see him trying to speak tough, but to see him saying these things about Farage and about Elon Musk, and pretty much painting them as fair game. Like, you want to take them out, do so, they're evil. That's what they're saying. It's wrong. And in fact, it makes them evil. It makes the Labour Party the extreme left, which is evil, which needs to be denounced and potentially proscribed. And I think it was interesting, that interview with the lawyer as well, that something needs to happen about this. They cannot continue, not just removing the security, but they cannot continue painting people that they disagree with as far right.
I think they are evil, because I genuinely believe this has been a coordinated plot to bring the violence and the language of the violence from the radical left in the US into the UK. And they feel like this is the last throw of the dice, because you just have to look at the polls. And then Sarah White, I mean, look at David Lammy today. I mean, this is when I just feel so embarrassed about our country. Look at Lammy today, sworn in as Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State of Justice. And just yesterday, he is describing Nigel Farage on the BBC as someone who flirted with Hitler Youth. He is an embarrassment to our country, but I actually believe he's a danger too.
The man's an absolute fool. I mean, he blubbers out statements, has no knowledge of what he's going on about. He talks utter rubbish. I mean, look at him there. He just looks like a complete puppet. He looks like something from the Punch and Judy show. And, he comes out with these silly statements that he's got nothing to back them up. I just don't know where he gets his information from. Has he gone to the Beano to just drag something out from there and put a sentence together? Because I don't know what to even say about him. The man's a fool, and how he's got to his position, I really don't know. It's quite alarming that these people are in the positions that they're in, and they are all directly inciting violence to anybody who doesn't agree with them. Like, it is quite worrying that Labour and the left, they are more like Hitler, to be honest.
Absolutely. And the thing is, this is going on all over the country. I am told that Advance UK Wales has just had to cancel an event tonight due to threats, due to violent threats against the venue. That's just breaking right now. So this is clearly a coordinated campaign now against the right in this country, and it's having the desired effect. And I think it is sick. Amidst all of the racism claims at the Labour Party conference, perhaps the real debate that needs to be had is one regarding ethnicity. Specifically, can our Home Secretary claim that she is English? Watch.
Is, quote, uniquely indigestible for a secular mindset, and people don't want to admit that. What do you make of that? Do you ever feel that your religion and your nationality are in some way in conflict?
Never. Not a single day. My faith is the core of my life. I'm a practicing Muslim, and I derive my desire for public service from my faith. And I'm a Brummie, I'm English, I'm British. I've never felt, as a practicing Muslim woman that abides by the teachings of my faith, any conflict with my civic or my national identity. This is a country that has a very deep Christian tradition, and as somebody who belongs to one of the other Abrahamic faiths, I've always felt very comfortable being in a country where so much of the legal system, our values, the institutions we have derive essentially their source code from Christianity. There is so much that is very similar between Christianity, Islam and Judaism in particular, and maybe that's why I've always felt very at home, but I've never felt that sense of conflict, and pretty much every Muslim I know has never felt that sense of conflict either.
But one of Shabana Mahmood's predecessors says, hell no, love. Hell no, love. You cannot be English. Suella Braverman, writing, I am not English. I am a proud British Asian. I am grateful for everything that this great country has given my family and me. I love England and the British people. This is not racist. This debate was sparked, of course, by the hard left loon, Lewis Goodall, someone who believed that it was also possible to change your sex. He wrote that Shabana Mahmood literally is English, prompting Matt Goodwin to respond, if I identified as Pakistani, would I be from Pakistan? Of course not. Britishness is a nationality. Englishness is an ethnicity. This is not hard. And Connor Tomlinson added in response to Suella, this is an obvious distinction to everyone except those obsessed with a vindictive denial that the English are an ethnic group. It makes it easier to justify driving our identity, culture, and nation to extinction if it never existed in the first place. You may not be English, but we're happy to have you as one of our countrymen. Those who hate us must leave. And of course, this is all part of the wider plot going on by Shabana Mahmood to target Nigel Farage, because she has even claimed overnight that he is worse than a racist. He's not just a racist, he is worse than a racist. Watch.
Do you think Nigel Farage is racist?
I think that Nigel Farage is actually almost worse than that. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think he's being extremely cynical. He knows that with some of the policies he's put forward, which are on indefinite leave to remain, for example, immoral and in my view extreme, he is sending that dog whistle to every racist in the land, but he wants to retain some respectability for himself whilst he does it, and that's what we're challenging.
Do you think he is racist himself?
Look, it's for Nigel Farage to explain who and what he is. I'm saying I can see that behaviour. No, I can see. No, I can see the behaviour that he's indulging in, and I'm calling it out.
Oh wow. Okay, sorry. I was expecting to play one more little thing for you there, but I think we can look now. Okay, let's go to my superstar panel. Father Calvin Robinson and Sarah White and Orla Minnie-Hain, the Essex Pink ladies who took Westminster today. But Father Calvin, look, this is a really important question. Is it possible for Shabana Mahmood to claim that she is English?
It's impossible. It's ontologically, biologically impossible. It's like her saying she is a bloke or like her saying she is white. Neither of those things are true. It's insane. And for people like Lewis Goodall to be peddling this lie just shows how much they hate the English. In fact, it's a cultural genocide. They want to remove or erase any English ethnicity. And that is the international definition of a genocide. And so it's dangerous language that these people are using. Englishness means something. The English ethnicity means something. And yes, anyone can gain well, not anyone, but people can gain British citizenship, as in they can become a British citizen, a British national, which is not even the same thing as a British ethnicity, which used to be a thing. Britons from Britannia, which is where the word Britain comes from, it's the Latin Britannia, were a people and have been a people long before England was even a place. But anyway, I digress. English is an ethnicity. Britain is a possible nationality. The two things cannot be conflated. Ethnicity means something. It means your culture, shared lineage and ancestry, shared language, shared faith. These are what the English people used to have. The English people used to be known as predominantly white, predominantly Christian, predominantly of this part of Great Britain, the southern part of Great Britain, the island of Great Britain. And that's, I say predominantly because there is some room for movement among those things. Of course there is, because everything is collective, but it cannot be erased, and we cannot say there is no such thing as English, or anyone can become English. You cannot become it because you have to have the lineage. And they'll say that's blood and soil. Yeah, blood and soil means something. You have to have a link to the place, to the soil itself. And you also have to have some blood, as in you have to have some tie, some ancestry, some heritage. These things are important. To paint them as otherwise is, again, ethnic cleansing, which is what these people are doing. It's genocide of the English people.
100%. And I mean, it infuriates me, given my own background. I was born in New Zealand, but I am English. My blood is English. My parents, my grandparents, my great-great-great-great-grandparents were all born in England. And it matters. I always knew I was English from the moment I was born, even though I wasn't born in this country. And so it really matters to me. And it wouldn't matter, by the way, Father Calvin, if I lived in Japan for 40 or 50 years, I would never be Japanese. And Orla Minihane, let me bring you in because I feel like this is the new trans debate. I really, really do. For a long time, we were told that we were transphobic or you know, discriminatory if we just didn't believe that it was possible to literally change your sex, a scientific impossibility. And I feel like we're almost being gaslit in the same way now by Shabana Mahmood, because it's like, unless we agree that Shabana Mahmood is English, we are racist.
It's just absolute nonsense. And look, going back to the trans debate, again, we've had this conversation over and over for the last few years. You can identify as what you want. It doesn't mean that you are that. It is ridiculous. So you can identify as a man, you can identify as a woman, but if you are not a man or a woman, or you are not a dog or a cat, etc., because your DNA says otherwise, then it's just a moot point. I mean, look, my family are Irish. You know, I was born here, my mum was born here, but my dad was born in Ireland and my mum's parents were born in Ireland. So my lineage is Irish. I'm an Irish person. I mean, the irony is that my maiden name's Smith and my husband's name is Minihane, even though he's English. But anyway, that's another story. But, you know, I was born here and I'd say, yes, I was born in England and I see myself as an English woman, but my background and my heritage is Irish. So ultimately, that's where I come from. And, you know, I think that arguing otherwise is just a completely futile discussion. I mean, 100%. Sarah will tell you she's born and bred English. Her parents were English. She's from the East End and that's how it is. And that's her background. And I would never try and compare myself to her because we're not the same. We're different. And, you know, why people have got to throw names and throw sort of, you know, jabs and jibes at each other because they try and sort of discredit you is just utter nonsense.
But the irony here, Sarah, is that actually Labour and specifically Shabana Mahmood actually hate England and hate the English. And she actually, I mean, she came out and admitted that in her conference speech when she said the challenge we face today is to fight for our belief in a greater Britain, not a littler England. I was disgusted. I mean, it's completely anti-English. It's totally racist. She said that in her conference speech. Anyway, Lawrence Fox posted on that. There's something particularly galling about a person whose family was welcomed into this country and afforded all the privilege and opportunity we could offer, turning around and calling their meek and white, guilt-ridden post-colonial hosts Little Englanders and racists. Yeah. This is our home. We have nowhere else to go. There are many Islamic countries. Please feel free to go and live in one of them. Sarah White, over to you.
I mean, well, if we go back to what she was saying, she's just trying to erase all meaning of what it means to be English. So by her claiming she's English, go 5 years down the line, she's not going to be claiming she's English, is she? She'll suddenly go back to saying that she's Pakistani descent and, you know, and then all of a sudden everything what it means to be English is totally broken apart. If I cook an Indian tonight, I can't claim it as English cuisine. You know, there is strict rules behind who we are and what we are and where we've come from and our ancestry. And like Ola said, I'm English. I know I'm English. Further down the line, I have other, you know, there would be Jewish in me, and then you look at my great grandmother, Russian, but it's very diluted. I am born and bred English, and so are both of my parents. I just find it absurd what these people are doing. And she hates the English so much so that she wants to label herself as English. It's a very warped way of then making herself look better, but also she's incredibly racist towards anyone that is English. They want to eradicate English and Christianity,
and they shame you. They shame you, these people, into, you know, feeling guilty. I mean, you know, I said to you, my dad was Irish, but my dad came here when he was 16, and he got off the boat from Ireland with nothing, and he made a life for himself, and he was absolutely eternally grateful for that, and always said what a wonderful country England was and what it had done for him and done for his family, and he would never have a bad word said about England or an Englishman. And he said, my family were born here. This is my home. I made it my home at 16 and I've contributed my whole life into this country. Now that is absolutely, that's fine. You know, that's perfect. He never denied that he was Irish, but he would always respect and had a great love for England and a great love for the royal family and everything that was British. It's the fact that these people have the audacity to, you know, set up a life here or live here and bring their children here and then spend their whole entire existence completely disrespecting the British way of life. That is absolutely outrageous, and no wonder we all get so angry with them. You know, I know we'll talk about later Narinder, the troll. She's another one. She says that she's going to move back to India. She's going to go. Well, go then. If you don't like it, then go. No one's stopping you. It sends me absolutely mental. These people, they're just so disrespectful, disingenuous, and they try and literally shame you into loving your country, loving your flag, and loving what we're about. And it's so wrong.
Breaking today, Diane Abbott and Narinder Kaur face down the Pink Ladies who stormed Westminster in a positive anti-hotel migrant protest, which took everyone by surprise. Now, this is absolutely unbelievable to me, right? You've got to think about this. What was the Pink Lady movement all about? And of course, it started in Epping, ground zero of this incredible patriotic surge all summer long. And think about what this was really about. It was about mothers and grandmothers coming together to protect their daughters from egregious sexual attacks and rapes by terrorists and criminals and murderers coming into this country undocumented. How on earth could any woman in this country decide to launch a counter protest against this movement? And if you do, then surely we now have to say that these are true enemies of not just our young girls, but of the state itself. But that was the extraordinary situation that we found ourselves in today, with the Pink Ladies leading that incredibly positive movement, but Narinder Kaur and Diane Abbott teaming up with this horrible Stand Up to Racism organisation, which I believe is very dodgily funded, to take on the Patriots. It was quite an incredible thing. Now, we're joined today alongside Father Calvin Robinson on our superstar panel by Orla Minnie-Hain and Sarah White, who are, of course, two of those brilliant Essex women who have been leading the Pink Lady charge all summer long and were behind today's march. But before we get to some of those incredible scenes, I just want to show you what Diane Abbott said during her really, really shocking speech, because what she was doing, and it still blows my mind, was labeling those mums and grandmothers who'd gathered together from all over the country just simply to protect their daughters as far-right extremists. Watch this.
And we also need to make it clear to the far right that we will not have them pretending they want to defend women and girls. Because the idea that women and girls need to be protected from men of colour is the oldest racist cliche in the book. To oppose it at every point. My parents were migrants from the Caribbean 60 years ago. They had to stand up and fight against the racists and fascists then, and we have to stand up against the racist and fascist now.
I mean, just extraordinary. Calling that group of people racist and fascist. Orla Minihane also posted when she arrived this morning, and so it begins. Narinder, the lefty troll, is here causing trouble again. And honestly, Narinder Kaur, Diane Abbott, and all of those hard left protagonists, shame on you. Shame on you. Because this was about protecting your daughters. So, I mean, Orla, honestly, how did you feel with Diane Abbott literally standing there? I mean, I know you were across the road from each other, and I want you to let me know what it was like and what happened. But I think the police had separated the two groups.
Yeah.
But she is there literally calling you and your organisation fascist and racist.
So look, let's be very clear. Diane Abbott and Narinder are hardly the, women with the highest intellect. They're both slightly, they lack any kind of realistic mentality. I mean, look at her. She's utterly dreadful. We get there. Sarah and I pulled up in the car, to meet the guys with the music system, and that little troll is standing there filming herself, pouting, pushing her boobs up, blah, blah, blah. And then says, oh, look, the right wings are here, and I just thought, oh, go away, you dreadful little creature. Anyway, she's got the IQ of a small garden snail, right? So we can't take people like her seriously. So we walked past her. She was too busy taking photos of herself and trying to get some attention from the press. Later on, when they were moved across the road and our ladies turned up and the press came, you could see how jealous they were and how absolutely disgusted they were at the attention we were getting from the media and the news channels. And they started banging their drums and shouting. And I didn't actually see Diane Abbott. I just heard that she was there. But to be honest, once we put our music on and we were singing and dancing, we drowned them out. But Diane Abbott, she, again, intellectually, incapacitated, but she stood there talking about her parents being Caribbean. What has that got to do with illegal migrant men coming across the channel and being put in hotels next to our children's schools when they are not screened, when they are not checked, when they've got no documentation? How are those two things in any way linked? You've got to compare apples and apples, not apples with pears. So, like I said, my dad grew up in the 60s where they used to say, no Irish, no dogs, no blacks. I don't go around saying, and comparing my dad's plight in the 60s and 70s with men getting off boats from Europe where they've just come from Sudan, where 9 times out of 10 they have got criminal records and they're only in Calais because the rest of Europe don't want them. How are they comparable? So, they use the same narrative for every argument. You're racist, you're far right, we can't elect. What are you talking about? We're not making this up. In Epping, a man was accused and found guilty of 5 counts of sexual assault. Last week, or earlier this week, another man was found guilty of assault on people working in the Bell Hotel. This is not us making this up. This is fact.
100%.
Again, so this is the thing, this is the man who says he wants to go home. I'll buy your ticket, mate.
100%.
Fine, I'll buy your ticket.
Well,
I will help you to go home.
But it's actually too late now that you've come here and you've abused our laws.
Exactly.
Sarah White, just before I bring you in, I want to show you what Narinder was saying so that I can get your response.
So I am here today, this morning, outside Downing Street to counter-protest the Pink Ladies and their message of fearing asylum seeker men. The truth of the matter is there is a sexual violence epidemic in our country. Violence against women needs addressing. But if you're teaching your daughters, and I've got a daughter, that to fear only one type of man, you're putting your daughter back. And when my daughter goes out, I don't teach her that actually those men in the asylum seeker hotels are all a danger to you. I teach her that any man is a danger to you. And the sad fact is, The facts are showing that women are actually a danger from men they already know. Husbands, dads, brothers, partners, boyfriends. That's who they're a danger from. So please do not misdirect and be used. We are not your weapon to disguise your racism.
I mean, Sarah, please respond.
You couldn't write it, could you? I mean, she's deluded. I mean, what woman teaches their daughter that every single man is a danger? I mean, that's ludicrous. Has she not got a father? Like Narinda's own father, what is he a danger to her daughter? I mean, it's ridiculous. And you know what? We had men there today. And if a man is a sexual predator and sexually assaults women, and he happens to sexually assault his daughter or his wife or someone who is related to, then yes, they are the people that do that. Unfortunately, if you're a wife and you get abused by your husband, then yes, he is the abuser. Like someone wrote that the other day, what she said, and it just, the statement itself is ridiculous. So I just think that, you know, for her to say that the pink ladies are there teaching everybody that it's one kind of man. No, we're there because we don't want an excessive amount of people in our communities causing harm and making people feel unsafe. We have enough people in our own country that cause problems. Why should we have to put up with everybody else's problems? I do not want undocumented men coming into this country illegally. They break into the country. They pay upwards of £5,000 to come here. Why don't they follow the process and do it legally? If they've got nothing to hide, they could pay £200 for a flight. I mean, we can say this till we're blue in the face. People like Narinda need to be deported. She needs to be sent home. She wants to go home. She said once Nigel comes in, she'll be going back to where she belongs. Good riddance, as far as
and also, to be fair, let's just be very, very clear here. Narinda is an attention seeker. You do not turn up to a protest with women and have your top down going meh, meh, meh. She's a disgrace. She's a disgrace. She's there for one thing. She has become completely irrelevant. Nobody, even not dancing on ice, even Strictly didn't want her. So now she's making a name for herself.
She was sent off the NTA red carpet.
She's making a name for herself as an activist. She doesn't care.
Yeah, but you're being an activist against women trying to stop the sexual assault of teenagers. I mean, it's sick. Sorry,
who is she calling racist? Because is she calling the likes of myself and Ola and the 83-year-old women there racist? But is she calling the people that are there who was Isaac and was it Hillary, Ola?
Yeah, there was loads of there was weird people from all backgrounds.
You know, is Isaac racist? Narinda would not call a 6'4" black man racist because she would, in her eyes, someone who is black can't be racist. So in the pictures, it's great how, you know, mainstream media or Narinda wants to paint it that it's all white women that are there that have now suddenly took over from white men, that we are now all the far right fascists and neo-Nazis. But, you know, when we're standing next to people that are black, or Mr. Singh there, you know, who's Asian, and you've got people that are Pakistani, are they racist? Or does she want to overlook that?
Yeah, well, look, Father Calvin, this is what Narinda said on Jeremy Vine about leaving the country.
I'm going to leave the country, and I've said it on air now. I'll go to India. I'll go back to India. I've already been looking at property there. So
have you?
Yeah, because
Nigel Farage.
I don't think he will come into power at all. I think he'll be finished by another year. And I think, but if he does, if you're asking that question, I'm looking at property in India. I'll be gone.
Father Calvin, I mean, would you be happy for Narinda to go?
I would love that, yeah. I think everyone that hates this country should leave it. What's the point of being in the country if you don't like it? And if she says go back to India, it implies that she is Indian, therefore she should be in India. Why is she on our streets protesting against our issues? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, she keeps weaponizing this word racist. Ladies, don't let it bother you. If you're called a racist by a leftist extremist loon like that, it doesn't mean a thing. Do not even play her game of how many black people or brown people are there. It doesn't matter. It could have been entirely white women. It does not matter. You're out there speaking up for the protection of women, and we all think it's dangerous that these men are allowed in without any paperwork, without any vetting, and put up in hotels all across the country, potentially raping our young girls. It's disgusting that it's happening. And if they want to call us racist for saying it's disgusting, they can go too.
Yeah,
Now-
and I agree. And look, and without, labouring the point, statistically, the people or the girls that are being raped, look at the rape gang scandal. They are white girls.
Yeah.
They are white girls. And the majority of the men that are doing this are Pakistani or men that have come in from alien cultures that do not share the same kind of respect and decency that we expect in this country our women to be treated as so.
But they are the racists. The rapists are the racists.
And ultimately, yes, of course there are racists, of course there are rapists, and of course there are paedophiles, and of course there in every country across the world. The difference is that every country doesn't have open borders like we do, and we are letting in every Tom, Dick and Harry from every place within Europe. And most of the men that are coming here now have been expelled from Europe because they didn't meet the criteria for their asylum, or they have been expelled from Europe because they have committed a criminal offence in a European country. That is fact. So we do not want these men coming here. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Now, look, there were some incredible moments today, which of course we should celebrate and share. So Susan Hall, actually, I thought she was brilliant. She ran against Sadiq Khan. She's the leader of the Conservatives in London and part of Restore Britain, which was also supporting today's event. Watch this.
So, on behalf of all of you, I'd like to say thank you to the media for coming, because we need this exposed. We need this organisation shown for what it is. We are not far right. We are not racist. We are just very concerned mothers, grandmothers, and I have a message for Keir Starmer. And a message to Keir Starmer is this: don't you ever come between a mother and her child when she is trying to look after them. Because do you know what, Keir Starmer? It will not end well. So people have said, how long are you going to do this? How long is this going on? Do you know what? Women have got grit. We will carry on until these people are not being put in hotels in our communities. We will carry on when we need to. So I'm thrilled to be with you. I will always be one of you, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today.
Oh, I just love that. Such a powerful speech. Lucy Connolly, my friend Lucy Connolly, was also at the march. She spoke to GB News.
Why are you here? Just to support these ladies and tell them how proud I am of them, because, it's very difficult at the minute with everyone running scared of what they can and they can't say. Can we say this? Can we do this? But when it all boils down to it, our children are the most important, and these ladies are here to keep their children and their grandchildren and their families safe. And that's it. They're not racist, they're not bigots, they're not xenophobes, they're just mums and grandmas and aunties and people that love their children.
What would be your message to MPs, to the Prime Minister today?
My message would be to secure the borders and to ensure that the people that we have already got here in the hotels, etc., that we process them as quickly as possible. We weed out anybody that may be a criminal, etc., and we get those that are fit to stay in the country into the system, working and contributing. The quicker we process these people, the safer we'll all be.
Very well put, Lucy, and such an incredible event. I love what the Pink Ladies have done all summer long, and to see them storming Westminster today was just incredible. Breaking right now, the off-communists have claimed another scalp. Talk TV has dumped the popular presenter Russell Quirk from its lineup after he decided to make a bid to become the first ever mayor of Essex under the Reform UK banner. Now, the irony of this, of course, is that no one has any issues with left-wing politicians, elected ones, presenting shows on LBC. They've never had an issue with that, be it David Lammy or Angela Rayner. There's a whole litany of them. But Russell Quirk posted on this, Offcom says I can't present a radio TV show during the period in which I'm standing for local council elections in case I unfairly influence you. Yet the husband of the Foreign Secretary can be part of an ITV discussion where her friend, the Chancellor, is interviewed. Two-tier broadcasting rules. And he is, of course, referring there to this ludicrous situation which regularly occurs on Good Morning Britain, where you have Ed Balls, apparently an impartial news presenter, repeating the pillow talk that he had with his wife, the now Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. It is nuts. Russell, as you can imagine, is not happy about this, so he sent us this video.
Hey Dan, hey everybody, it's Russell Quirk. I'm sorry I'm mobile, I'm rushing around a bit because I'm up for election tomorrow, in fact, Thursday. And herein lies the thing. It turns out that my, albeit brief, underwhelming media career during my election period has rather been halted by the off-communists, as you, Dan, would term them. Get this, the rules say that as an election candidate, I am not allowed to broadcast as a presenter. I can be a guest, I can be a host, can't be a presenter. The reason being, one would imagine, is because Offcom believe that you are also stupid, that even if I were to declare that I'm a candidate for reform, that I might say things that influence you, that make you do things or vote or believe in a particular way that is somehow unfair. That rather insults your intelligence, don't you think? However, on the other hand, it seems that every day, at all times, any time that they see fit, ITV and the like can have the likes of Ed Balls sitting next to Susanna Reid whilst they both interview the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Well, what's wrong with that, you say? Well, what's wrong with that is that Ed Balls' wife is the Foreign Secretary, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is one of her best friends. That seems to be okay in terms of bias, in terms of manipulation, in terms of, tweaking the knobs of democracy, so to speak. What do you think about that? I mean, I think I think it's fine, by the way, for Ed Balls to interview his wife's friend. I think that's absolutely fine. But it has to be a level playing field. Otherwise, it's effectively two-tier broadcasting, isn't it? That I'm not allowed to speak to you as a presenter on an opinion show on TV or radio, but it's fine for Ed Balls to soft soap an interview with his wife's mate. Surely there should either be one rule for everybody or no bloody rules at all, which actually is what I favour. Anyway, angry of Brentwood.
To my superstar fan of all of Vinnie Haynes, Sarah White of Reform UK, and Father Calvin Robinson. So Father Calvin, look, I mean, we know all about the off-communists, all about them. And the whole thing is, Father Calvin, the off-communists never used to care, did they, when it was left-wing presenters? Still don't. They are specifically designed to try and drive small c conservatives out of what they describe as the broadcasting ecosystem. They were successful at GB News when it came to us and Mark Stein and Lawrence Fox and a whole load of others. And now their goal, because they are working for a Labour government, is to take out major Reform UK voices. I mean, I think the whole off-communist system, Father Calvin, is completely irrelevant now anyway, because what it does is force these sort of faux debates between the left and the right, but actually so many issues are not discussed in that manner today, Father, so it doesn't work anyway. But are you surprised that they're doing this? Is it right that they're driving Russell off Talk TV because Talk TV is scared of getting the fines and the scrutiny?
I agree with Russell entirely. Either it needs to be one rule for all, or they need to get rid of the rules entirely. I think disbanding Ofcom at this point will be a good move.
Oh, God, yeah.
For
It's
the
got
next
to go.
government. Yeah, it's got to go. It is, of course, a regulatory body that is arm's length from the government, but we all know it's part of the government agenda, and that's a major problem.
Totally.
You can't have the government impeding on what journalists can and cannot do and say. It's bizarre that we have a country where that's the case. It's kind of communist, really, or I suppose it's why you call them off communists. But also, there are voluntary regulators, so organisations opt in to Offcom. I'd love to see what would happen if all the channels just decided to opt out. What would they do?
The problem
there?
is, well, they can do that, but then they are unable to broadcast through the terrestrial airwaves. So like Talk TV could opt out now if it went off radio and stuck to digital, but if they want to stay on digital, they've got to keep the off-communist regulation. I mean, all in anyhow, what's really interesting to me is that, I mean, Father Calvin's completely right. Of course, it's not arm's length from government, really. I mean, it claims to be, but we've now got Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, specifically calling for the off-communists to act to get Nigel Farage removed from GB News, for example. So it definitely feels to me like they are now targeting Reform UK because Reform UK is the threat to the establishment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the whole Ofcom thing is just another attack on free speech, which 100%. We're seeing every day. Boring. And we all know what's going on. I mean, I spoke to somebody today, Sarah and I spoke to somebody today who was arrested for a tweet. And the tweet was the most, I mean, I wouldn't say it was inoffensive, but it wasn't offensive. It was, I don't even know why you...
And you know what? If you want to post a goddamn offensive tweet, you should be allowed to.
It was so... I couldn't quite believe that he had 4 police cars that turned up to arrest him in front of his family. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. But as far as the, you know, the continuous assault on Nigel and the continuous assault on Reform, they're terrified. Let's be clear. You know, the whole country, bar the minority of hardcore lefties and hardcore Labourites, you know, they are all, everybody, even people that would be normally sort of centre-right, quite liberal, are all moving towards reform because there is no other choice. Simple. There is no other choice. The government, you know, the Labour Party are an absolute bunch of morons. They've got nothing to offer. They're destroying the economy. They're destroying the fabric of the country, and they are turning people on each other at a rate that is I've never seen before in all my life living in this country. So they have completely lost control. Conservative aren't even on the horizon in any shape or form. And then you've got ridiculous liberals jumping around with Ed, who's like the Mr. Bean of politics. So you've got nobody else. And Reform, for all of their, you know, foreboil, you know, all their wrongs, and I'm not saying that they're perfect, but, you know, they are listening and they are sensing and they are understanding what the country want and what the country need. And Labour are terrified. They're terrified they're not going to make the 2029 election because they're terrified that, you know, the country's going to erupt and turn on them. And I mean, once, I believe, within the next 6 months, year max, that we are financially completely crippled, there will be no choice but to go to a general election, and they know they're going to be wiped out. So every tiny opportunity they get to badmouth Nigel, badmouth Reform, and you know, do everything they can to restrict their freedom of speech, that's what they're going to do. It's classic retaliation when you're backed into a corner.
And Sarah White, I mean, you're very tapped in to the Reform UK world in Essex, right? And Reform UK really is now a stronghold in your community. Is Russell Quirk the favourite to take on this role as the Essex mayor? Because I mean, I imagine there's going to be a lot of big names who are going to be competing to be selected.
I mean, yeah, definitely. He'd be one of the favourites for sure. I mean, you never know how the voting goes, do you? I would have quite liked to have seen Orla myself as Essex mayor. I do believe she would have been the best candidate. But, you know, it just shows how scared Labour really is. And it's not just Labour, it's Conservative that are scared, because the reason why our elections were cancelled here in Essex was because of the Conservative councillors in this area, because they all voted to have our elections cancelled, because they all know that basically this is a very stronghold here of Reform voters, and they are all going to lose their seats, definitely. So, but what's quite funny is if he doesn't get the seat of Essex mayor, what happens then? Will he be allowed his position back, or will they still deem him as,
Well, it's really interesting. I think so, but this is the whole stupid thing, right? And Father Calvin knows this. It's ludicrous, right? Like, I know that there are a whole load of presenters on GB News and Talk TV who are planning or already in discussions to either try and become a reform peer or run for a reform seat or take on a reform job. I mean, Jeremy Kyle actually came clean the other day with The Sun and admitted that. But the problem is, Father Calvin, they have to lie. They have to pretend to be an impartial broadcaster just to appease the off-communists. That's what I hate. I hate the fakery. I just want to know. I want to know if I'm listening to someone, I want to know that they are going to be a Reform UK candidate, because then you can listen with a degree of sort of understanding about where they're coming from. They're obviously not going to be critical of Reform UK, right? Because we know how Reform UK work. If you're critical at all, you're thrust out. So what I hate is actually, I think this whole Ofcom regulation system, Father Calvin, makes broadcasting less honest. And I thank God that, at least for the moment, touch wood and pray, we are not regulated by the off-communists.
Yeah, it doesn't work. The system doesn't work, does it? Because you're quite right. We don't really know where people stand, because they're hiding it because they want to remain on air. And the moment they come out and say, yeah, I support this party, they get taken off air. And the issue there is that there are certain outlets that are heavily sided out in one direction. We saw this with Sly News. The moment that Labour got in, they were orgasmic. We're seeing this with
literally.
GB News. Right. We see this with GB News, and they're pushing reform at every step of the way, because we know the major financial backer has interests in reform too. And so there's a game of politics that happens that the viewers aren't necessarily aware of, because they're not able to be made aware of. So whilst Ofcom, they say they're trying to make it more transparent and so that people can't be political on air, but actually what happens is people hide their politics, and so there's to subvert the system to remain on air. And so the viewers don't know, for example, that Sly News is a Labour Party broadcaster, or that GB News is a Reform Party broadcaster. And we should know these things because they are propagandizing us. There's a reason that, for example, UKIP and the SDP and Reclaim don't get a look in on Talk TV or GB News. There's a reason these things happen. And so we should be all free to support whoever we like, and it should be open, and we should have, like the ladies was talking about, free speech. We should be able to support whichever party we like, and that should be okay.
Yeah, because Advance UK, for example, I'm just hearing today, already the 7th largest political party by membership, but of course completely boycotted and banned and blacklisted by all of those broadcasters, even those on the right. Father Calvin Robinson, thank you so much. We will speak next week. Can my pink ladies just stand by just for a couple more minutes? But to your feedback now, David Black writes, Labour doesn't seem to remember the politicians that have died at the hands of nut jobs. I would like to know what the monarchy has to say on this matter. Very good point. God is love and light, in response to that shocking slight and slur that Mad Miliband, made about Elon Musk earlier, says Elon has British family roots. He's well entitled to be involved in UK politics. Truth Seeker says, love Elon, shining a light on the darkness in the UK. So do I, seriously. Stuart Wallace says you can get a police visit for calling someone a muppet. So what happens when you call someone a racist and a Nazi? Well, nothing. If you're on the left, of course, nothing. From Lazarotti, around the world, everyone knows who is really English, who is really Scottish, etc. No amount of lying, gaslighting, or slogans can change it. And Tyrone Taylor says, you should be whatever your parents and their parents' nationality are. Just because you were born in a certain place or country does not make you that nationality. And I mean, of course, to me, it's just totally obvious. But like the trans debate, the left sort of try and gaslight into us into saying things which are completely untrue. Okay, to today's Union Jackass reveal. Now, a reminder of your nominees. Diane Abbott, nominated by Kaz Quinn for saying on Newsnight that she is all for people giving Nigel Farage a good kicking. David Lammy, nominated by Blame Game. He says Farage was born 19 years after the Hitler Youth was disbanded. Is Lammy so thick he believes his own statement, or is this something more sinister? I actually believe the latter. I think it is more sinister. I know some people just think he's thick. I think it's more sinister. And Ed Miliband, nominated by Eras Tours 69. who describes him as Ed Miliband. I like that. Okay, the results. In third position with 6%, Diane Abbott. The runner-up with 20% of the vote, Mad Miliband. But today's Union Jackass with an overwhelming 74% of the vote today, the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy. I was about to say David Miliband, but no, David Lammy. And to today's Greatest Britain, congratulations to Orla Minnie-Hayne and Sarah White, who are with me right now. Look at that. Epping says no. The two incredible ladies, the nomination, by the way, was by Mick Cass, the two incredible ladies who have organised the amazing Pink Ladies March in London today. And honestly, I mean, you've both been through it all summer long. You know, I mean, Sarah, God, you've been arrested, you know, you're facing trial, but still you both press on. And I hope you were so proud of what you saw in Westminster today, because it's the culmination of what has been an incredible summer, right?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, we're both incredibly proud and couldn't be happier with how it went today. And, you know, like earlier when we were saying about we get called racist, I don't care whether I'm called a racist. I don't care if I'm called a fascist, because at the end of the day, these words have basically become so overused now that they've lost all meaning. And we know that we're on the right side of history, myself and Ola and everyone included, and everyone who stands up and is being counted and who's making a difference. We are the ones that is going to make this country Great Britain again. And I could not be happier right now.
Indeed. And it is all about, as you can see there, save our kids. Save our kids, Ola.
I mean, I'm exhausted, I'll be honest, but I'm 10 years older than Sarah, so I can be more exhausted than she is. But, you know, I think there are days, Dan, and I'll be honest, where, you know, you wake up and you get really bad comments on X, and people say things and da-da. And the thing is, you know, the demon that is social media is that to get your message out and to get your, you know, your backing for your protests and backing for your agenda and getting the word out there, you have to use social media. I mean, when I was young, there was no social media. So, you know, it's the devil that we have to all, you know, use. But when you do see it and you get abused constantly, and it does get you down sometimes, and you just think to yourself, God, why am I doing this? Like, shouldn't I just watch a box set? And, you know, and then this morning when the stage didn't turn up, and Sarah and I in the car going up to the West End trying to get, ringing around scaffolders, trying to get a stage made, and you think I could be in bed. But ultimately, the government and the MPs and the, you know, the authorities, none of them are going to do what we need them to do unless there is pressure, because it's too hard. They don't want to do it for whatever the reason is. And we can have our conspiracy theories. We can look at Starmer and who Starmer's real boss is and who he's answering to and blah, blah, blah. They don't want to do it. And unless women like Sarah and I and all those wonderful women today and women up and down this country who I know will join us as we push this movement forward, if it isn't for us, then the men will keep coming in and the girls will keep being assaulted. And every time that happens, there is a stain on this country and a stain on our souls. And if we can stop one girl or boy, let's not forget that, you know, boys aren't, it happens to them as well. But if we can stop it happening to one more little child, then we've done our job.
Well,
or done as much as we can do. Yeah.
You have absolutely done your job. I mean, as you say in that incredible piece of art, I think, really, Sarah, right side of history. And you are. Because, look, I've been saying it all summer long. And, of course, it took a long time for the mainstream media to catch up and work out what was happening. But Epping was ground zero of this movement, the migrant hotel uprising. It spread all across the country. I always knew it was going to come from a place like Essex, and it did. And the Pink Ladies was such a big part of it. So congratulations. And, you know, the great thing is I've got to know you both now. And this is the thing. It's all about making these connections and actually feeling, because sometimes we feel a bit hopeless, right? And I know that all of the Outspoken family feel a bit hopeless. But Sarah, it's like when we were together at Unite the Kingdom. I mean, I felt hope that day, actually.
Yes. Oh
and sometimes that's what we need. And I think there was a lot of hope with what you both did today as well. So our greatest Britons, Ola Minnie-Hain and Sarah White, thank you both so much. And please come back very soon. What does it say, Ola? What does it say?
Make Britain great again.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you both so much. But come back soon. Come back soon when you're not so exhausted, although you both look amazing, of course. Now, we're moving over to Substack now for the Uncancelled After Show. This is a really disturbing story. Thomas Markle remains trapped on the 19th floor of a high-rise building full of cracks after the deadly Philippines earthquake, as Meghan Markle, his daughter, refuses to help. So we're going to cross to the stricken city as the fake Duchess's brother, Thomas Markle Jr., unleashes a host of extraordinary tirades against the woman he describes as the Witch of Montecito. Then analysis with royal YouTube sensation P. Dyness. You can find us at www.outspoken.live. We're back with you live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Please subscribe to our podcast now too, because Outspoken is available as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as a video podcast or audio, whichever you prefer, or wherever you get your podcast. Rate and review. That is the critical thing. I know you're loyal to us here where you're watching, but if you can rate and review as a podcast, it really helps with the algorithm and all of that. So I would appreciate it, a little favor to me. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.